Native American Studies has been in existence at UNM for more than 50 years, but students did not start earning degrees until years later. Joining me now to talk about the program and how it's evolved is Native American Studies Chair and Professor, Dr. Tiffany Lee, and graduate of the program, Rebecca Horsechief. Welcome.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
And Tiffany, go ahead and start us off and tell us a little bit about the program.
Yeah, as you said, it's over 50 years old. It started in 1970, really around student activism, students wanting to have their experiences, perspectives, history embedded more in the curriculum. And so Native American Studies was born out of that activism from students. However, it was just sort of a piecemeal program with faculty, teaching. It was actually a student center, more of a student affairs type of organization in the beginning. We didn't get a minor degree until 1999, so many years later, and then became a department only until 2018 when we moved into a new college. But since that time, we have developed several degrees, the bachelor's degree, an online bachelor's degree, a BA to MA shared credit program, the MA, and most recently our PhD program.
And with this milestone being marked this year, what does that mean to you to be celebrating 20 years with the bachelor degree program?
Yeah, it makes me feel like time has really flown so fast. I started in Native American Studies as a postdoc fellow in 2003, and then we got the program approved in 2004, and it's just been, we have over, I think, about 135 BA graduates and the same amount of minors, so 270 BA and minor degree graduates out there in the world are moving on, such as Rebecca, fabulous Rebecca, who was really instrumental in helping us get our degree approved at the state legislature.
Well, Rebecca, what drew you to pursue a degree?
I'll tell you what, now that I've been, listening to Tiffany talk, it reminded me that I've actually have been around and knowing about and wanting to be a part of the Native Studies program since I was in high school. I remember when the Native Studies Center was then where the business school is. And of course, some of those centers were torn down to make room for other programs, businesses, buildings. It was then moved to Monte Vista Hall. And so I graduated from high school in 1995, did a summer bridge program, did some of my assignments at the then Native Studies Center, that is where the business school is now, Anderson. And then I graduated with this bridge program. And actually, Tiffany was one of my professors through this bridge program between high school and college. And it was all about academic success. And we focused on Native Studies and English and math. So really core subjects and nation building. Some of these concepts were really new at that time. This is before we actually had Native American banks, and that was something we were talking about then. But to answer your question, my experience and my history with Native Studies has been pretty much since high school. And I'm so proud to say that I am a graduate of the University of New Mexico Native American Studies program. And at that time, before it became a degree program, I was able to, through University College, so I'm aging myself now, because there wasn't a degree then, I was able to graduate through University College, and I designed my own degree, which was essentially Native American Studies. But it was power, sovereignty, and self-determination. And through those courses, I was able to take nation building, like federal Indian law, learn about other communities nationally, learn about federal tribal relationships, learn about policies, learn about early instances of activism. Because we were cross-listed with a lot of these tenured track positions, we had professors for film, we had professors for history, we had professors for music. I really feel like it was an early renaissance for the university, for that department. And we were learning about early instances of indigenous activism, like pre-colonial, sort of post-colonial settler sort of instances. For example, people hadn't thought that there were early resistance activities to colonial settlerism. And that's the things we were talking about, and pontificating about, and, having bigger, larger discussions about. And I mean, I could just go on, but I'm still proud of being a graduate of the university, specifically that program, now department. And it's opened so many doors for me personally. And, you know, Tiffany and I met for coffee before we came over here. And one of the things I was like, you know, Dr. Lee, I was like, we have a long history together, but one of the things I can say is that everything that we talked about and how we, oh my gosh, a little emotional, how we engaged in those courses is everything that I'm doing now and who I want to be working with as far as tribes and tribal communities. And I've touched on every one of those areas through self-governance, law, education, and now access to capital. So I don't want to get too far in the weeds, but
You made me think of, you know, the strength of NAS really is its interdisciplinarity. So we do have tenure lines that are specific just to our department, but the faculty have backgrounds in history. So we look at issues around food sovereignty, around environment, around community building, leadership, language revitalization, just, you know, a whole gamut. But at the core is really about serving community and doing research that's relevant and important and meaningful, and through a reciprocal relationship as well. So we're really trying to change, I think, what academia is. You know, we're not sitting in the ivory tower anymore. We're really embedded, and all of us in Native American Studies, all of our faculty are Native American, and we all come from the Southwest. So we have a lived experience and relationship and value for doing important work that, you know, serves our communities. And all of our students are the same. You know, they all, you know, their majority are Native American, but I'm really happy that we do get some who are not, because there's a role that a lot of people can play to serve the interests of Native American and Native American communities.
And can you expand on, I know that the students, like Rebecca, are the biggest success of the program. Can you expand on a lot of students, including at the Celebration Symposium you held this spring, talked about using their degrees? Not only are they earning critical thinking skills, writing, career skills, but as Native people, a lot of Native people want to go back and use their education to go serve their communities. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So one of the questions we always get is, what can you do with a Native American Studies degree? And so I try to put that back and reframe it in like, well, what skills have you learned from your degree that you can then apply to a career or to move into graduate school or law school? Because it's not just about the degree. Of course, ours is you know, Native American Studies is a very specific field, but it's the skills that they learn within that degree that they can apply to almost any career that they want. And that's what our students have done. They move into a lot of government careers, tribal government, state, federal government, because that's, you know, the relationship. There's a, you know, an important and necessary relationship that our tribes have with those three levels of governments that our students can, you know, participate in and contribute to, but they also move into nonprofit industries. They go into education. They start their own nonprofits, as you saw at the panel. They move into graduate school, and a lot of students move into law school. So, and I think what they take in those positions when they move into careers and further education is that foundational knowledge of the history of settler colonialism, the impact that's had and that continues to have in our communities, the policies that still, you know, have repercussions, and then how tribes are exercising their own sovereignty and self-determination to transform or create communities that are sustainable and that reflect who they are.
And Rebecca, your thoughts on, you know, listening to Tiffany talk about students and going on and, you know, even working in the grassroots, local level with their communities. What would you tell students who were interested in earning a Native American Studies degree?
I would say it's one of the best degrees that you can have under your belt. You can do anything with a Native Studies degree. And I'm proof of that. A lot of our peers from our graduating class are proof of that. We've gone on to law school, nursing. The practicality of this degree knows no boundaries, honestly. I mean, because when we were students at the university, as Tiffany mentioned, we were advocating, We were doing the research, we were looking at the policies, we were writing the research papers, we were presenting at national conferences. You know, in some instances, some of the things we were doing were really unique to both the university and to our group. It's not unique now, of course, we're old heads, but we started a Native American Studies Indigenous Research Group, which was pretty profound for us at that time and was really helpful for, you know, going to law school, really helpful for doing the research, really helpful for, you know, being able to make those contacts and collaborating. You know, collaborating is huge. I can't tell you how important our connections, the connections that were made at the university are also, you know, lifelong and have been so tremendously impactful. Of course, you know, I'm a little biased, but I could say that I keep coming back. And even in my current role, I am the current president of the University of New Mexico Native Alumni Association. So I keep finding ways to come back and be involved and give back to the students and, you know, cheer on the Native Studies program and recruit from their graduates and recruit from the American Indian Student Services cohort as well. So I'm just so thankful. And I think every time I see Dr. Lee, and if we're meeting, you know, whether it's professional or we're meeting personally or we're out socially, I'm always just thanking her for the opportunity to have learned from her, to have had those experiences, and just to be, you know, mingling professionally now. You know, it's just, it's everything to me. You know, it's been everything for my profession. I work for the Assistant Secretary of Indian Affairs right now. So Brian Newland, who's right under Deb Holland, who's our Secretary of the Interior. And I get to work with tribes and tribal communities on, I would say, some of the bigger projects that are on the hot seat with the administration. So like living languages, tribal tourism, access to capital, Indian business incubators, tribal electrification. I mean, there's just, I love it. But for the degree, Tiffany and I were talking, I just want to go back a little bit. Tiffany and I were talking at the cafe earlier, and she reminded me that we did some lobbying, some early lobbying at the Capitol. And so it was myself and a couple other student groups, and we went up to Santa Fe. And I didn't really recognize it as that at that time, but you know, afterwards that's exactly what we did. You know, we shared with the legislators the importance of the program to our studies, to our professions, and to our future. And so, you know, we went door to door. And, you know, I thought that was really impactful, because it's one thing to say, hey, you know, we need funding for the University of New Mexico Native Studies degree, but what does that mean? You know, who are these students? What are they going to do with it? You know, what are your plans? So that's impactful. Yeah. It was impactful.
Yeah. That's why I was saying earlier that she was instrumental in really helping us to get our degree approved, because we had to go through this, you know, approval process of UNM, but also through the state system. And students being there to advocate on behalf of Native Studies was really, really essential to that getting passed. And I think the promise, the strength and the promise of Native American Studies really is its students, you know, the ones we have now and the alumni, because they really demonstrate, you know, what you can do with a Native Studies degree, but also how transformative that knowledge can be. You know, you can apply it in so many ways if you have that foundational understanding, a critical awareness, and you know, you're in tune with, you know, how the current socio-political environmental context is affecting your community, then you kind of know how to address that and how to educate others about it. So it was great that that panel that you came to earlier, celebrating the 20th, we had one of the panelists who was saying, you know, she's learned, you know, a lot of issues that come up in her work now. She thinks back to her when she was in NAS, and she was saying, there's a class for that. And we're like, that's such a great logo. We need to put it on a t-shirt, because every issue, there was a class that addressed that issue or that you know, topic in one of the classes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, looking towards the future, I'll ask both of you. Rebecca, go ahead and go first. What do you hope Native American Studies looks like at UNM in the next 20 years?
Oh, it's going to be amazing. They're going to have their own building. There's going to be even more, faculty and adjunct faculty and assistants and support. It's going to be an expanded program. I'm hoping that the state will continue to fund it, meet it at its level of need, and that there will be all the other like philanthropic, interests that are participating as well. And I hope that alumni can, engage to give back in a meaningful way too. So there's really it knows no boundaries other than, it just people stop showing up to work, which I doubt is going to happen. I mean, really, think about the international collaborations too, which is what they're excellent at as well. So I'll leave it at that.
And Tiffany?
Well, in 20 years, I should be retired. But no, as Rebecca said, we already have grown so significantly since in the last 20 years, but really in the last 10 years. And I really see how now that we have a PhD program all the way, down to the BA and a minor degree, just the breadth of what our students can do in the communities. And I see that I'm hoping, and that's what we're working towards now, is really developing and building stronger long-term collaborations and relationships with communities, and that's organizations as well, to really create impactful change through research and through teaching and through service.
Well, I want to thank you both for being here today, and congrats on the 20-year anniversary.
Thank you so much. Yeah.